Aloha, shalom. There seems to be a theme this week coming up in my conversations with friends, clients, family. And the theme is this idea that we have different voices in our heads, or we seem to have this split in our personality or in our understandings. Like there's two of us inside fighting, right? I've heard a lot of people this past week say, I don't know which voice to listen to. I don't know which voice is true. I don't know which belief is valid. I feel like I'm at war with myself. And this is nothing new. And I think this is really important to talk about because you're not alone. And we all experience this at one point or another where we feel torn between two different beliefs or two different understandings or many different perspectives. And I think of a quote by Walt Whitman. Do I contradict myself? Very well. I'm large. I contain multitudes. And that's the thing. Life is a paradox, and there's going to be contradiction. And there are going to be these times where you feel in conflict with yourself. And that's more than okay. It's actually perfect. It shows that you're human, which we came here to be. We don't want to deny that. And it shows that you have awareness, you have the ability to self-reflect, which is the first step on the path of self-realization and self-actualization. If you don't even have the ability to reflect, then you'll never reveal those truths that you need to reveal and integrate. So it's okay to feel confused or at war with yourself. You will get through. You will get through, and you have everything within you to do it, to make it through. In fact, Israel, the word Israel, has many different meanings, but a very popular one is God wrestler. But when you understand that everything is one and everything is of the Creator, one with the Creator, then it's just the different parts wrestling with each other. It's our higher aspects wrestling with our lower nature. It activates that conqueror within us that conquers the lower nature, conquers the lower aspects of ourselves. We came here to wrestle with our own minds, with our own beliefs, with our own thoughts, so that we can continue to grow, to deepen our understanding. In the Hebrew Bible, known as the Torah, we first have Noah, who blindly obeys God, but what happens in the end is brutal. He dies in a crappy way. And then we have Abraham, who is the first one who questions God. He says, why are you going to smite these people? Why are you going to get rid of this town of sinners? Like, I feel for them. They're my brothers. They're my counterparts. They're your counterparts. How could you do this? And God respects that. The Creator didn't create us to be blindly obedient, to be robots. We came here with a conscience and with the gift of free will so that we can self-reflect, self-realize, self-actualize, so that we can grow, continue to refine our experience in all dimensions of existence. And so when you feel that conflict within yourself, when you feel like, I don't know if I should listen to this part or that, I feel like there's a voice within me that's negative, but then there's a voice within me that's positive. I don't know what to do. Well, if you just stop there and hate yourself for it or beat yourself up over it, then you just come to a plateau. You just get stuck. You first want to accept those parts of yourself. We have the whole universe within us, all the things that we judge as good or bad. We have unlimited potential within us for the good and the bad. And so it starts with accepting all of our parts. And then looking at those parts and asking ourselves, how can we utilize all of the parts for our mission? How can we utilize even the parts that we judge as negative or bad to serve the Creator and creation and ourselves and all life? How can I look at that voice inside that I judged as bad because it was telling me to do bad things? How can I, instead of just saying, oh, that's a bad voice, say, what is it trying to tell me? And how can I allow for that internal dialogue, for that voice that I'm judging as bad, to have a conversation inwardly with my higher aspect? The voice that maybe you feel is kind of quiet. Maybe you feel like that bad voice is louder than the voice of your intuition. Well, yeah, intuition has no need to yell. So right there, that's something to look at. If you feel upset that the negative, per your judgment, that negative voice within is so loud, well, look at that. Of course it is. The truth doesn't need to yell. Just because it's loud or louder than your intuition certainly does not mean that it's more valid. So even when that voice is screaming inside your head to think the negative thought, say the negative thing, or do the negative thing, you as the observer absolutely have the potential to pause and reflect on that and say, I hear you loud and clear. And I also know that just because you're loud, it doesn't make your expression true. It's like a baby that's not getting what it wants, right? And you don't just say, oh, the baby's being so loud, I better just give in to it and give it what it wants. The baby doesn't know what's good for it. The baby doesn't know yet. And so you have to activate not just the child archetype within you, but also the parent archetype within you. The parent, the conscious or high vibrational response wouldn't be to just scream back at it or to listen to it and do whatever it says. It would be to quietly soothe, to quietly have that dialogue, to peacefully bring that energy back into harmony. So I'm thinking of all the people that I spoke to in the past couple weeks who've shared this, that I just can't get past those negative thoughts. The voice is so loud in my head. And I've said, develop the voice of your intuition to be stronger, not louder, but to be more resonant. And that takes a conscious acknowledgement. Like, we have to look at this internal dialogue going on and say, just because one voice is louder doesn't make it true. The voice that is quieter is the one that's true. And I'm going to develop a relationship with that voice. I'm going to continue to validate that voice. So every time I hear that negative voice that I typically in the past would give in to, I'm now going to use those moments to trigger my conscious awareness, to insert my conscious awareness and say, oh, well, that voice is really loud. And instead of saying, oh, it's so loud, and just being stuck there, or saying, oh, it's so loud, I better give in, I'm instead going to go, oh, now's the time to look at the quiet voice behind that scream of the ego or of the pain, and to see what it's saying, which is usually the exact opposite. Because think about it, light is the neutralizing force of darkness. Spirit or intuition is the neutralizing voice of intellectualism or the ego. So when that voice that's so loud tries to get to you, ask, what is the voice within it saying? What is the quieter, more subtle voice? And remember, the laws of Hermetics teaches you the opposite always lies hidden within. So it's there. It's always there. So take accountability. Look for what you know is there, the truth within the lie. The truth, the quiet truth that's behind the loud scream of the ego. Know that it's there and seek it the next time that screaming ego comes into your mind. Remain as the observer and say, no, I know that what's in there is the opposite. And I know that voice is quieter, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. I know the ego's voice is louder, but that doesn't mean that it's right. Again, remember, it's like a child. It just wants to be heard, so it's going to get louder and louder. And it just wants your attention. And it wants you to penetrate through to the opposite force, the neutralizing force, which is going to dismantle the fear, the pain, the scream of the ego. The more we just deny that voice of the ego, the voice of the pain and suffering, the voices in our head that we judge as bad, the more we deny those aspects of ourselves, the louder they're going to get. And the more chaos they're going to cause in our experience until we can finally get it, until we finally acknowledge what's going on there. So the point is to integrate all the aspects of self. First, by simply starting off with the knowing that we have everything within us. Whether we judge it as good or bad, we have the potential for all things within us. Infinite potential. So there's no use in denying any part of the self. Welcome them all the parts, all the perspectives, all the angles of awareness. And when any one of them arises, whether you judge that perspective or that voice within as good or bad, ask, how is this voice serving my mission? Okay, for example, if that voice comes up and it's the one that you think is the negative voice inside, ask, how can I use this as fuel to find the opposite? How can I remember? How can I stay strong when that voice is screaming and remember to look for the opposite within? How can I allow for that negative voice to rise within me so that I can face it with my intuition each time, acting as an opportunity for me to strengthen the bond and resonance with that voice of truth inside of me. So the point is whole and holy integration of all of the parts of the one. There aren't just two inside of you. There are many. There are infinite expressions that live inside of your heart and inside of your mind. Accept that level of expansion, that limitless potential that exists within each one of us. Accept that so that you don't have to continue denying any part of yourself. And with that acceptance of your limitless nature, also know that whatever arises, we are here to direct that perspective of consciousness toward the service of humanity and all of creation. So when something comes up today and it's a part of you that you've been denying, let it come up and instead redirect it with purpose. Use it to rise up. Thanks for joining me, you guys. If you didn't see the first quarter activation yet, it is up. Today is the first quarter, so we have a fresh message to integrate. And I look forward to doing the work with you this week and onward into the future. Many blessings. See you soon.